fully Son of God. I'm fully man, fully Son of God. And this is what he's demonstrating. There's a connection between him and God. He said everyone who heard him was amazed at his understanding and his answers. And when his parents saw him, they were astonished. His mother said to him, "Son, why have you treated us like this? Your father and I have been anxiously searching for you." Again, this is Mary speaking in the temple courts, and this is just not heard of. She speaks for a man. That's not heard of. "Why were you searching for me?" he asked. "Don't you know I had to be about my father's house?" But they did not understand what he was saying to them. And then he went down to Nazareth with them and was obedient to them. And his mother treasured all these things in her heart. And Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and favor with man. So I want you to know as I go through this, I don't believe for a minute Jesus was disobedient to his mother. I don't believe he was disrespectful or anything like that. But one thing I do believe is he was teaching that he was God. And I'll show you some of this. But Jesus, he gives a twofold reply to her. When he says, "Why did you come seeking me?" He's looking into the heart. Do you know who I am? Do you understand who I am? Do you know what I'm doing? Why do you come seeking Jesus this morning? Did you come seeking Jesus because you got something in your life that you need help with temporarily? Did you come seeking Jesus because he's the one who can forgive you of your sins and offer you life? Did you come seeking Jesus because you want a bigger SUV than the one you got with air conditioning? Did you come seeking Jesus because he's got all the answers that you need? Or did you come seeking Jesus because he's the Son of God? The only one, the only way that you can get to heaven, the only one who can wash you clean with his blood, the only one who can forgive you. Or did you come seeking a Jesus that can pad your bank account, make you something bigger, give you a better job? Jesus says, "Mary, why did you come looking for me?" Because I am the Son of God. I had to be about my mother's business. There are a ton of people who come looking for Jesus for all the wrong reasons. You don't believe me? Turn on your TV set and watch that crowd that gathers around who listens and says, "Well, if I sow in, I'm going to get blessed. Or if I have a health problem, I'm going to get fixed. Or if I need a healing, I can get a miracle done." And the guy waves his hands. I'm not picking on that, but what I'm telling you is that's not who Jesus is. What if I told you this morning, Jesus may never give you another dollar? What if I told you he would never heal your sickness? What if I told you that he may never change your outcome and you may never get a different job? Would you still come seek him? Would you still come and want a relationship with him? Or is it all about what you can get? All right, we got one. Hey! Way to go, Sheila. Would you still seek him? That's the question Jesus is asking. He asked an intellectual question, not just the heart. But then he said, "Mom, Mary, don't you know that I got to be about my dad's business? I'm the Son of God. You can't separate me and God. We've got a connection." The interesting thought was maybe he would have said to her, "Mom, where did you go looking for 3 days? Did you think you were going to find me in a pool hall? Did you think you'd find me in the gymnasium? Did you think you'd find... I'm about my Father's business. I had to be in the temple." Maybe that's why you got to be here this morning. Because you come to meet God. You come to be with Jesus. You come to worship. You come before your Creator. You had to be in the temple. You wanted to be in the temple. You came to the temple. Now I know this is a building built with stones and your body is the temple. But do you feel that way? Did you want to be here this morning? Did you desire to be here this morning? The trains couldn't hold you back. Nothing could hold you back. You were coming because you couldn't be separated from your time and your moment with Jesus Christ. Now, you can have them all throughout the week. You can have them, but I mean, this is a special time. Jesus went to the temple. Wanted to be at the temple. Had to be at the temple. And he appealed to her intellect and said, "Mom, I had to be about this." You had to know that. How, Mary? Well, an angel told you that it was a virgin birth. When I was born, the shepherds showed up. Herod passed the law about killing 2 children, and you went, or killing 2 and under, 2 years and under, and you went running. You know about Simon at the temple. You know about your cousin Elizabeth. You know, Mary had seen all these things and still didn't know he was the Son of God. What have you seen about God in question? What have you seen? How much do you need? Do you need a miracle? Would a miracle keep you? Would it sustain you? Jesus was probably the greatest act on earth for 3.5 years. And I don't mean that despairingly. He probably performed more miracles than we've ever seen in our lives. He healed the lame, the blind, the sick, the leopard. It wasn't enough to sustain him. It wasn't enough to keep him. Well, at the end of his life, they cried out, "Crucify him! Crucify him! We have no God but Caesar." You're no different. I'm no different. You have seen miracles in your life in this day and age. You've seen things that you get bored. You've seen cars that came on. You've seen airplanes that were developed. You've seen computers. Used to be nobody even had phones. Now you got cell phones. Started out with a box phone in your car. Going to the moon was great. Now we got to get to Mars. If you went to this little fair down here I went to yesterday, you go, boring. Those rides are boring. I've been to Disneyland. I've been up 25 stories. I've been twirled and twipped and flipped and down and up all around. And if you've done that 6 times, you go, boring. What's next? Jesus said, Mom, did you come seeking me because I'm the Son of God, or did you come seeking me because I could give you gifts? Did you come seeking me because of some thrill? And I would ask you that question. What kind of Jesus are you seeking? If it's just to find your next thrill, your eyes won't do that. You know, you look at things, you think, oh, that's going to be great, but it'll wear out and get boring. Or did you come seeking the Son of God who can offer you life that nobody else can offer you? Did you come seeking after the water that can give you a drink that you'll never thirst again? Did you come seeking someone who can forgive you those sins that can never be washed away only by the blood of Jesus Christ? You see, it makes a difference, because in the world today, Jesus is just a good person. He's just a prophet. He's just this. He's just that. No, there's only one way into God. He's the Son of God. He's a virgin-born baby. And I have met many in the church that tell me, not Church of Christ, but I've met many in other religions that tell me, no, he's not a virgin born. That's just a story. Well, I'm sorry. Jesus said, no, I'm virgin born and my Father is God, making me God. That's John 5:5. Somewhere in there, John 5:17 maybe, or 17:5. I have to go look it up now. I got it twisted. It's in my notes. Point being, there's a difference. Who's your Jesus? Is he just a God that can give you what you need when you need it? You see, that don't last. You know how I know that? I've met people that have come to me, and they come to church, and they last for a little while. They say, you know, my husband is leaving me for another woman. Or my wife's leaving me for another man. And they come while they're seeking help. But when the one comes home, they quit coming. Or when they figure out they're not coming home, they quit coming. Or when they figure out they're not going to get what they want from God, they quit coming. They're seeking the wrong Jesus. And that's the kind of people who are. We want a God that turns everything into gold. And now Jesus asked this question, why are you seeking me? His first question is not, why did you seek me? His question is not, why didn't you know where to look for me? It's not, didn't you know I'd be in the temple? His first question was, how is it you sought me? Why did you come looking? Why did you come this morning? Who are you seeking? Jesus is asking the same question today. How is it you came here this morning? I already asked. How did you become a child of God? Let's see what I got here. What condition is your heart today when you look for Jesus? Who are you looking for? Someone that can bail you out of a jam? Are you looking for a relationship with the Son of God that can give you life everlasting? It's a good question. It's one we all got to answer. So who is he asking? He's asking Mary. This, again, I talked about this a little bit. It's very interesting. Mary had all the evidence of who Jesus Christ was. Mary knew she gave birth to a baby and never had intercourse with a man. Mary was visited by an angel. Mary seen the shepherds and the magi, and all of that is seen. What has God done in your life that you think to yourself, it's just not enough, I guess. What does God have to do to convince you that He exists? What can God do for you more than giving His Son? What can God do for you more to convince you that you got to live a life or ought to live a life in respect to Him and want to worship Him and serve Him because of what He did for you? He said, didn't you know I had to be in my Father's house? I like this because I really think this is what He true. Because she says, me and your father. If you go back a couple of verses, it'll say Joseph and Mary, Joseph and I. She says, me and my father come looking for you. And He says, no, my father is my father's in heaven. Joseph is my stepfather, but he's not my father. I know who my father is. My father's the one who built this temple we're in. My father is the one that just all this stuff in here belongs to. My father is the one. He said, where did you expect to find me? Is what I'm thinking He's telling her. I don't know where you've been looking. Have you been looking in the pub? Have you been looking in the bars? Have you been looking in the... That's not where I hang out, Mom. Let me ask you this. Any of you here raised a 12-year-older? I bet some of you have, right? I know you have. I have. You ever see a perfect 12-year-older? You know any perfect 12-year-olders? Mary raised a sinless boy who never sinned. That'd be a pretty good clue that he ain't normal. That'd be a pretty good clue that he probably isn't a typical teenager. And if you go looking for me, Mom, you might want to check the temple because I don't do those things those other 12-year-olders do. How do you know that? You've been raising me for 12 years. I'm not the same. I'm the Son of God in flesh. I'm Emmanuel, God with you. You realize that's the Jesus you serve? He's not an ordinary man. He's not just a good prophet. He's not just a good teacher. He's not just a good person. He's the Messiah. He's the only hope you have. I think that's funny. I think he must have. Where did you look for 3 days? Where did you think I would be hanging out? Shoeing horses? Doing dentistry? What do you think I was going to be doing? Where's Jesus? People looking for Jesus today. Why do people look in all the wrong places? I brought this up because I want to tell you one reason. I'll tell you one reason people can't find Jesus. They can't find Him in churches today. You ever see some of these churches that exist? Flying the pride flag and everything else they do? You're not going to find Jesus in a building that doesn't teach the truth. You ought to come here and worship God because we preach the truth. There's a difference between going somewhere where the truth isn't spoken. Now, I'm not petty. There are many groups out there, and I think we hide Jesus sometimes. We hide Him in all different ways in our lives. Let's just be honest. People come seeking Jesus, and we teach the 5 acts of worship. People come seeking Jesus, and we talk about why we don't do this or we don't do that. People come seeking Jesus, and we spend more time in proving them wrong than we do saying, yeah, you ought to fall in love with this guy. Yeah, you ought to know about him. I think there's some truth in that. Now, where are you going to go to find Jesus? I hope you'll come to a place in a house where the truth is taught. And it doesn't just have to be here in Glenwood, all right? But you ought to associate yourself with a place where the truth is taught. And you ought to come seeking the truth. Jesus is the truth, the way, and the life. This, I'll just leave you with this. This is Isaiah 55, 6, and 7. Well, there's one more slide. He says, seek the Lord while you may be found. Call on Him while He is near. Let the wicked forsake their ways, and the unrighteous their thoughts. Let them turn to the Lord, and He will have mercy on them. And our God for He will freely pardon. He says, you ought to come seeking me. You ought to get rid of that stuff in your past and in your mind. All those thoughts that are bad. You ought to come seek me. But then you ought to leave that old man behind, and you ought to come to me and get right. That's called repentance. You ought to come. You ought to come because I'm the one who gives you life. You ought to seek me because I'm the one who can get you to heaven. You ought to seek me because I'm the one who's got the answers. That makes a difference. Who is your Jesus? That's the question He's asking Mary. Who is your Jesus? Why did you come seeking me? I'll leave you with this one. This is the one that drove the disciples, I mean the Pharisees' way. But Jesus said to them, my Father is always at the work of this very day, and I too am working. For this reason, the Jews tried all the harder to kill him. Not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but he was even calling God his own Father, making himself equal with God. Jesus that day teaching in the temple baffled them and marveled them because he taught and they heard him actually say these things to Mary. Mary, my Father. I have to be about my Father's business. What he told him in the temple was, I'm God. God is my Father, not Joseph. Mary, I must be about my Father's business. I must be about my Father's house. If you called your dad Daddy, you'd be earthly. He called his dad from heaven. He's godly. He said, I'm God. And they heard him that day very loud and clear. Who's your Jesus? He's God. He's God. Don't come seeking a Jesus that isn't less than that, or any less than that. He is not. He's virgin born. And I tell you that because there are many groups that tell you that's not true. Jesus is the Son of God, born through a virgin birth. So I don't know. I have to ask you that question this morning. Do you know Jesus that way? Is that the Jesus you serve? Are you a Christian? If you're not, then Logan is going to stand and we're going to sing, and that's only the opportunity. That's all that is an opportunity for you to come. We call it a song of invitation. So you can come and get right with God. Seek the Jesus that can make a difference in your life. Come on, Logan.